Hi guys, welcome back to Maths Chat. Today I'm going to be going over how to solve for x. Now this would be one of the easier ways to do it. I've got some harder examples in the next few videos, but for now, if you're still getting used to it, this is a great video to watch. Now, some people can solve for x in their head, and what I want to encourage you to do is to move away from that so that you can start to do it using algebra. Let's go through it. So for this video, I'm going to go through 3 different examples. As you can see, the first 2 are pretty similar, and then we've got the third one, which is slightly different. To start off, let's look at part A. 2x is equal to 12. Now, this question has asked me to solve for x. Solving for x means that I'm trying to get x on a side by itself. I always want you to think of opposite operations. So if I've got multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. The opposite of adding is subtraction. Okay, so that's what we're going to use in these 3 examples to help us. So if I've got 2x equals 12, that means that 2 times x, remembering that there's an invisible multiplication inside there, is equal to 12. The opposite operation is divided by. So to answer this one, I'm going to divide this side by 2 using the same number that's here and the opposite operation. Now that also means I need to divide the other side by 2 because that's what's going to keep my equation balanced. If we think about this, 2 divided by 2 is equivalent to 1. So what we're actually doing is by dividing by 2 means that these 2 are going to cancel out. In the next part, I've got x is equal to, and then if I calculate this one, so 12 divided by 2 is equal to 6. So x is equal to 6, and that's my final answer. Now, looking at the next equation, something very similar will be happening. So 4x is the same as 4 times x, and that's equivalent to 24. The opposite operation to multiplication is division. So just like we did up here, I'm going to divide my left-hand side by 4. Which means I'm also going to divide my right-hand side by 4 to keep it balanced. Now, just like I mentioned up here, 2 divided by 2, they both cancel out because they're the same number on the top and the bottom. The same thing happens here. So I can actually cancel out my 4 here, cancel out my 4, which means that now I've got the x all by itself, which is good because that's what we've been aiming to do to solve it for it. And then 24 divided by 4, which is equal to 6. Now the third one, slightly different this time. You'll be able to see that we've got the 3x again, so we've got a number multiplied by x, but this time I've got a -1 there, which means I can't just divide by 3 in this case because there's a -1. Think back to our opposite operations over here. The opposite to positive is a minus, and the opposite to minus is a positive. So that means if I've got a -1, I'm going to add 1. Now what this does, if I add 1 to both sides, this side here actually becomes 3x plus or minus 0, because -1 plus 1 is obviously equal to 0. And that side will be equal to 12. Never in an equation we need to write plus 0. So I'm just going to rewrite this to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. So it's 3x equals 12. To do the final step, just like we did earlier in the last 2 examples, whenever I've got a number multiplied by x and that's equal to another number, I just use my opposite operations to solve for x. So 3x means 3 times x, so the opposite is divide. So 3x divided by 3, cancel those ones out, 12 divided by 3, and then we'll be able to calculate that in a second. So my final answer will be x is equal to 4, because 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. Okay, so that's how you solve the simpler equations. Part 2 in this series of videos will go over how to solve slightly harder ones. Alright, so that was how to solve for x. but just the basics. So if you're feeling a little confident now and you want to go and try some harder examples, then make sure you watch the next few videos because they'll show you how to do it and also give you some questions that you can test yourself against. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.